to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. As you know, I'm thrilled that you're joining us this week. So to help you on your journey of change, whatever that is for you right here, right now, I hope between my guests and I that we provide some ideas, strategies, thought solutions that will help you navigate that change in a little bit easier way. So again, take notes, listen to the show, and at the end, I will share links with gifts and things that my guests and I are providing for you. Now, if you're loving the show, which I hope you do, I hope you tune in weekly, that you can go to Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen and rate and review. I really do read those comments and I love reading them and always appreciate your feedback because I always want to make the show better and better for you. Now, my motivational quote today is by Seth Godin, and he says, instead of wondering when your next vacation is, maybe you should set up a life you don't need to escape from. Now, this quote, it actually made me laugh and it hit a chord with me because don't we all look forward to vacation? And I don't believe that every day really needs to be a vacation. I think that might be a little silly, but I do think we all deserve to have a life filled with joy and passion. And being in business for the 20 years, listen, I can honestly say that I get to do what I love doing every day. So it kind of is like a vacation. Now, that's for me, helping banks and bankers deliver and serve their communities at just a higher level so their personal and business clients can thrive financially as well. And that same thing for my private clients who are business owners. So how do we actually dig in and live the life we desire and really, really deserve? Well, I'm glad you asked because, of course, today I have a cool expert. Her name is Sairan Aqrawi. I don't know if I said her last name right, but it's Sairan. And she and I are going to talk about this topic. Now, Sairan is an engineer as well as the CEO of International Transition Expert, a successful transformational coach, an engaging speaker, a knowledgeable and attentive mentor, a co-author of best-selling books, and just so much more. So please help me welcome Sairan to the show. So Sairan, thanks for being on.
Thank you. My pleasure, Connie. Happy to be here.
Yes, you know I love you. And so my first question is, engineer, you used to build and design buildings, and now you've transitioned over to building and helping people build and live their dreams. So how the heck did that happen?
Good question. Yes, through engineer for so many years, graduated bachelor degree in civil, then I earned my master degree in system integration. And because I was so motivated and pumped up, I was like, yay, I finished my master. Let me just start my doctoral. So I start my doctoral, and while I'm doing my first classes, I got introduced to the new grads at my university. They wanted someone who graduated and mentor and coaching them. I didn't know what's mentoring and coaching. I was just being told to be a guest and speak with those new grads. I was like, okay, I like that. After I finished speaking with those new grads, the head of the department called me and she said, all the students think that you are a coach. And I didn't know, what does that mean? I said, coach in what? They said they think you are a life and business coach. I said, no, I don't know. I'll just speak out of my heart. So she made me curious to know, what does that coaching mean? So I start searching, of course, ICF and certification. I fell in love with coaching and mentoring. I dropped my doctoral for I being so interested in learning more about coaching and mentoring. And I earned my ACC with ICF and I started a side business. I never looked back. I don't think I will ever go back and earn that degree. Nothing wrong with being a doctor or PhD degree in engineering. I think I am done solving equation, and it's time for me to solve other equation and personal development for my clients. And if I'm able to build, as you said, building, I can build your dreams now.
And you know what? You fascinate me because here's why. Two things, two comments on what you just said. Number one, it's almost like the coaching found you, right? See, and this is that with change, there's always an underlying opportunity. So you're asked, hey, can you come talk to these peeps? And you're like, I've never done that before, but sure, I'll try it, right? opportunity was knocking and you leaned in, even though you had never done it. You were probably a nervous wreck because I know you, because you want to do the perfect job, right? So that nerves and all of that. And then you go, and then the feedback is, oh, she's a life coach. Oh, this is so cool. I learned a lot from her. And I'm a what? So first of all, that opportunity found you and you were able to walk through that door of this unknown. You didn't even know what it was, and that it felt right for you. So sometimes what we should be doing finds us. You went to school for engineering, you got your master's in engineering. Life coach, like, how does that fit together? The second point I wanted to make, I believe that your engineering mind, like you said, looking at mathematical equations, right, to make buildings viable so they don't collapse and they're safe and all of those things. There's structure, there's a process, there's you got to do point A, then point B, then point C, right, to build the building. But isn't that same with building a life that we desire? We have to be strategic in how we approach it. And you're right, it's solving that equation. You're here, right? You're at point A. I'm using my hands if you're not watching the video. You're on point A and we're trying to get to point B, and there's that gap between my hands, right? That's the strategic plan that you help people determine. It's the same thing that you have a plot of land and you're putting a building on it, right? Again, that space of my hands, that's your mathematical equations. That's the project review and to make this viable building. It's the same thing you're using. So your brain, the way your brain is wired, is this very natural connection to what you're helping people do now with building building their life that they desire. So it's kind of cool to see how your brain was meant to do this, even though you didn't realize it.
Yeah, and it's true, and that's the question I asked Jack Canfield. He's the famous author, as you know, for the Success Principle. I get to have a Zoom with him for 15-20 minutes as a promotion from an event that I attend in Illinois. And through Zoom, I asked him a question. I said, I was, of course, very, like hesitating to ask the question, but I said, I'm just going to ask him. I said, what is the relation between me being an engineer building and now I am a business and life coach? He looked at me and he said, what you were doing before? I said, I was building. He said, oh, so, okay, so you're building. What are you doing now? I told him about my niche, picking up international commerce and how to guide them to find their way to fulfill their American dream. He said, you are still building. I said, but what? He said, you are building their dreams. You're picking up their dreams and make it a reality. This is how I come up with the D2B, dream to be. And this is something that I always emphasize and talk about it with my clients. If you have a dream and you really have the faith and commitment to do it, the sky's the limit. You can do it. If I was able to start this from scratch, coming from different country, different culture, and 26, 27 years ago, I thought, no, I'm in the wrong place. But now I know I'm meant to be here. There was a reason for me to travel all the way from north of Iraq to come to United States to fulfill all the dreams that I had when I was a teenage. And it's actually, it's written in his book, The Success Principle, about the core genius. When you mention how an engineer now solving people's, guiding people's, towards their dreams, it's the core genius. It's each one of us have something that we are talented on that we need to find and dig deep to know what is that core genius. You might be perfect in your IT job, day job, and I'm never telling you to quit that job, but you might have another talent that you need to really work on and give it as a gift to the universe. You might be a writer, you might be an artist, you might be a baker, you have something as a core genius. You really need to find it and make it something that a side business that you don't feel the time, you don't feel the effort. You go to that place that you enjoy, and you will say that, wow, that's here. I'm myself. I am healing. I'm leaving an impact. I'm giving back to the community.
Yeah. And you said a couple of important things there too, Sairan, because we are gifted with something, whatever that is for the listeners, right? But we all have something that we have that's unique to us, that's special for us, that we're supposed to bring forward in the world to help fill in the blank, right? To help with fatigue, to help with transition from another country like you do, right? You have a lot, most of your clients, right, are migrating from other countries to the United States. So how can they build this thriving, wonderful life here when perhaps the language is a deficit, or perhaps they were an engineer in another country, but that's not recognized here, whatever the situation is. And you can help them tap into what that core value is, or that special sauce that they have within them. And I think because we're good at something, Sairan, we think, well, isn't everybody good at it? No, they're not. Yet in our brain, well, this is so easy. It's got to be easy for everyone. So I think by what you're doing, you're helping people shine that light on their zone of genius, right? Their brilliance, and saying, wait, I do that naturally. I love doing that, and then bring that to the world. And that could be a business. The other thing that I think is real important, and I want everybody to hear this again. Sairan is not saying, oh, I'm really good at this, I'm going to open my own business and I'm going to leave my engineering job or my doctor or whatever profession you're in. That's not what we're talking about. You could have a side hustle doing something you love, and you love it so it doesn't feel like it's work, and it might be another little revenue stream for you. Or maybe you do it from a volunteer, from a philanthropic standpoint, where you share your zone of genius, but there's no money exchange. It's just this beautiful energy exchange. So, I think everybody thinks, oh, I got to do a side hustle to make more money. No, do the side hustle because you love it. And then if you can leverage it to make money and leave the other job, great. But that's not always our objective. So I think you also help people determine, what is that path look like? Is it to leave the other job? Is it to keep it as a side hustle, or is it to do it from a philanthropic standpoint, right?
Yes, absolutely. And the side hustle will be a side vacation. Like the quote you said, is
Right.
going to be your side place that you really need to be there,
Yeah.
make you comfortable. There's a great fulfillment when you give back without getting paid. Like you said, the volunteer part of it. When
Yeah.
I start doing mentoring, I start with pro bono, of course, hours with my university and a lot of women leadership platform.
Cool.
I was not getting paid, but just the fulfillment I see in women, even men, when they wanted the guidance or they want the mentoring, and I see that satisfaction in the steps and the process that I explained to them, it's worth $1 million, because you just see, like you said, from point A to B, who better than someone that being in the same story like me. I felt the same way they are feeling. All the people who come from Iraq and Afghanistan, Russia, any place from the world, wanted to fill their dream here in the United States. I've been in that spot 26 years ago. I was confused. There was culture conflict. There was a language barrier. I didn't feel safe. I doubted my decision. I thought I'm going to take airplane, go back to where I came from, because
Sure.
I left a comfort system. I was surrounded by brother and sister, parents. I was spoiled in my city. I was doing everything in an easy way. And here I am in my 20s, starting from scratch, trying to prove myself I'm the smart engineer who can find her way here. So for someone who come to United States, of course, legally, if I pick them up as a client, who's better than someone who's been the same process? I've been through it. So I
Absolutely.
know what's A and how you go through A, B, C until you get to where you want.
That's right.
And your destination, it's not defined. I feel if you put your goal somewhere, that's not a good idea. It's infinity. It's never stop. If
That's
you
right.
get to a point, that's not your final destination. There is a lot to do. We all can do a lot to the universe. If you have your share and I do my own share,
That's right.
each one of us can make a big difference as long as you know where you're going.
Eh, as long as you know where you're going. And I think people, they have the heart, like people are, I want to do that, right? We have the heart, we have the desire. What's the first step? We don't even know what that first step is. And that's why having someone who can, like you, right, where you can zoom out with them and say, just talk to me and then I'll understand. And I could tell you that first step. We're not in the forest, so we could see the trees and the green and where the patches are, right? They can't, they're in the weeds, so they can't see the skylight, the sunlight, because they're deep in the weeds. So I do believe in coaching, and I believe every coach should have a coach, because we all have blind spots, and we just need someone to come from that other perspective to shine the light on something that might be a blind spot for us. Now, I know that you believe that we shouldn't say that our efforts are ever wasted, or, well, that was a waste of time, right? Why do you feel, well, that's never a waste of time?
Never, never. I always tell this to my client, and they try to argue with me. Said, how comes I've been doing IT for 20 years and now I found out that I'm good at something else? I said, it's not wasted. That 20 years in IT give you that realization and knowledge now to know that's not the right things. Without going through all those years, you form yourself. It's like pieces of puzzles. You can make always the puzzle right away in one piece in a quick sense, right? You have to struggle in the beginning. And that struggle, maybe sometimes it's painful to some, to me is learning. I cannot tell you that my 20 over plus years engineering, it was waste. It was not. It's opened up my mind. I was able to be a programmatic thinker. And now I know, even when I coach, I treat it like the math equation, because I was able to solve the math equation. I better to solve this client confusion in life, either in business or in life, right? So you learn that skill as you go. So you cannot say, I wasted this time. Even in relationship, Connie, I feel like even when you build a relationship with a partner or a friend, and later on, they were not the right fit, that was not also waste, because you earn the experience. Now you know how to, who's the right match, how to find the right person who really in align with your thoughts and dreams. So whatever you've been through, relationship, job, any experience in life, nothing being wasted. You have to go through that things to get to the right thing. It's a process.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, I was thinking my kids, I mean, now they're 23 and 26, but when they were, doing the dating scene, right? My older son still, but my younger son, like, and my husband and I were like, well, she's not the right girl for him. But we didn't say anything, because like, he's going to figure it out. And then the next girl, oh, she's a better fit. Still not the right one. Oh, she's a better fit. So, and now the young lady he's dating, she's a perfect fit for him. She's amazing. Right. But he needed to go through those other 3 or 4 ladies, women, girls, whatever, depending on his age, to know what wasn't good for him, the man, right, versus what is good for him as a partner. But you have to go through that, even though you're heartbroken. Like, he was heartbroken at the time if they broke up, and oh my God, am I ever gonna? And then the next girl, it's like, oh yeah, she wasn't a good fit for me. But he needed to see it, feel it, to uncover what really his true heart's desire is for him with this partner, right? Another question, you keep using your calling, what your purpose is, right? What your core value is, I think is how Jack Canfield says it, right? How do we know, or how do you help your clients figure out what that calling, because people are listening going, okay, I don't know what my calling is. Connie, help me. Or Sairan, help me. How do you help people figure that out?
True. I guess the first things I always tell my client when they talk to me, I need them to be clear where they are heading. Without clarity and focus, you cannot do anything. These are two powerful words when you mentor and coach someone. Are you clear? If you are not clear, tell me where is the confusion is. And focus. I ask my client, if you are not focusing, you are not committed, don't tell me I wish, I will, I want. Are you committed? If you are not committed, I'm not the right coach for you. So
That's
a
right.
little bit harsh in the beginning, and they can tell I came from another profession. They said, oh, she's tough. Of course, engineer, we have to be tough to fit in, right? Especially in construction. So you can tell the style a little bit different when I coach. So how I know, how I make the client discover we are not magician here. I'm not going to say, oh, engineering, you should be doing something else. It's happened after many sessions that I have with them, because I ask them a lot of, I kind of like peel the onions with them, go deep down, see what is really make them lit up. I see their body language and gesture, especially their eyes, when they talk about something they do as a hobby, like they paint. I have a client who's this very smart system engineer, but she loved to paint. And when I see her painting, I was like, oh my God, why are you even doing engineering? And when she talked about her art, the whole body light up, her eyes, her everything's like she become full of life, talking about her pieces, how she finished this, how she showed this to her friends. So this is how we know what's your core genius. It's the place, it's the act, it's the task that you do without you looking at the watch. You don't look at the time. You don't know the time go by so fast. You've been doing that piece for hours and you didn't feel the time because you were enjoying it so much. And also you do it, you put your heart and soul in it. I'm not saying other people who teach or they are doctor or engineer, they are not putting their soul, but inside them, there is something else they really enjoy. You talk with many people who has profession for so many years and you ask them what is really excited them, they will tell you something totally different what they do in their day job.
Yeah.
That is their core genius. That's exactly what you need to thrive and plant the seeds more and more to grow
Yeah.
more and more. And I'm
Yeah.
not suggesting you again to quit your day job so you can be perfect in your core genius. No, I am asking you to bring that core genius and gift to life, cherish it, plant more, plant more seeds in it, water it, make it something that you can give it back to the community, giving back to the world. Because I feel, Connie, each one of us have a different call in this life. You are here to leave a certain impact. Might not look like the same impact that I am supposed to
That's
leave.
right.
But if you are mastering, if you gain your black belt and your gift and core genius, and you leave that impact, and I do the same thing, this world will be a better place to live.
And it's our ripple effect. You don't know how you're impacting or who you're impacting. And sometimes you don't get that feedback for years and you're shocked. Like, you felt that way with me? Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Right. So it's that ripple effect. Some is unknown, some is known, right? Is seen. The other two things you said. So if you're trying, and I'm talking to the audience now, but if you're trying or you have this passion like painting or something where you get charged up and excited, there were two key ingredients that Sairan said, and reflect on this. So if there's something that you love to do and you think, oh, I can never make money doing that, because here's the reality. I live in reality, Sairan. I know you do too. We have bills to pay. We have family obligations, right? We have things that we have to do, and you need an income to be able to accomplish putting food, the basics, food, shelter, right? All of those things. So, and I know you keep saying, I'm not saying quit your day job. Reflect though, and think, I do, and the word light up, where people say, wow, you just lit up. People have said that right to you. That's an indication that might be your core, your core zone of genius that maybe, like Sairan said, do it as a side hustle. You could do it philanthropically, volunteering, whatever, however it works into the equation of your life. And the other thing is, you got to put the time in. You can't say, I wish, it should, I could have. Don't have regrets. What can you commit to? And here's the other thing too, Sairan, I bet you see this all the time. If I could commit where I have kids at home, I have a husband, I have a house, I have a job, I could commit literally, maybe I could scrape up 1 hour to do my painting, then give up the 1 hour to do your painting, right? You got to put the time in to develop whatever that craft is, whatever your zone of genius is. So you have to commit, right? Put the time in. But what makes you light up? That might be an indicator of what maybe you should be doing or looking to do. And here's the other thing. I always wanted to have my own business, but I had a house, a husband, a career I was building, right? All of those things, trying to put money in the bank. And I kept thinking, someday, but I had my business plan in place. I had I knew what I wanted to do in my business. And then when the opportunity presented that I got downsized and I had a 13-month package, I said to my husband, this is it. I'm ready. I'm ready now. But I was clear. And the other thing you said was clarity and goal. I knew what my goal was, to have a business, but the clarity of what I was going to do in that business and how I was going to serve people, it was about helping people. It was obvious to me. I just needed the opportunity financially. So again, everybody looks differently, but you have to be open and committed to what is that long-term goal. It doesn't have to just be today, but what is that long-term goal in your life? And I think that's important.
Yes, you did the discipline work. You discipline yourself to start the business, and that's
Yes.
comes with the clarity and focus we talked about. You
Yes.
were clear what you want to do. You were focusing in your goal, but you discipline. You put it the time. You are committed. As I said earlier, when I start talking with my client, if I feel or I sense after a couple of sessions they are venting, I have to leave as a coach because I will not be a help for them. Because if you are not committed and you're not going to give me the discipline, there is accountability relationship here as a coach. I'm not
Absolutely.
going to sit here and listening to you venting about how your boss is not giving you promotion, how your partner is not appreciating you enough. I'm not here to you can vent for a short of time, but
Sure.
don't make it a trend in our coaching session. I'm not going to come every session and you're going to start about whining and telling me how life is not treating you well. That's not a coaching. That's venting.
Yep.
So I tell them, are you disciplined? Are you committed? If I feel and sense again, if they are not committed to the coaching relationship, I very professionally, I will say, I just I have to tell you the truth. I don't feel I'm the right fit for you because you hire me in the first day to take you from point A to B. And if I don't do that task, I will not respect the title that I have. Uh, I have to do something to make you feel better about your self development towards the end. This is not a venting relationship. The discipline is very important, Canny, and it's not easy. I'm sure when you start your business, it was not easy at all because, as you said, husband and kids and bills and all other things on the top of your dream that you
Yeah.
want to make as a businesswoman is not easy, but you are committed. You discipline yourself to make it happen, and it's happened.
And here's the other thing, Saran, and you've seen this too. And guess what? Even the business evolves and changes as I age, as my skill develops, become more honed and proficient, right? Because I've been doing it so long. But now with COVID, I had to learn all of this new technology. Though I felt like, oh, like, how do I not know any of this? I had to start at the bottom again and learn. So the learning curve for me with the technology, excuse me, was extensive. So do you give up? I had to buckle down and say, every day, you got to learn, you got to figure it out, try it, research it. What do I need? Why do I need it? Can I use it? Should I not use it? All of those questions, you have to show up and put the time in. There's no free lunch. My dad used to say there's no free lunch. There really isn't. You can't get to that next step if you don't educate or learn or become practice, even if it's just practicing whatever that skill is, right? So I think that, and I know you're big into the education and self-development for that as well. You can't get to that next level without growing and learning within self, right? So even though you were an engineer and you had all the transferable skills of how you thought you can use from an application standpoint, yay, you're halfway there. Well, how do you run a business? How do you price things? Are you coaching? How do you get out there? What certifications do you need? You had all these questions, even though you had that core skill. So again, we have a learning curve. Every one of us has some learning curve when change is part of our life, whether we choose it, like you chose to open the business, or in my case, where I got downsized. For me, I wasn't forced. I could have gotten another job. I chose to open my business. So we all have these crossroads, but if you haven't done the reflection, I think it's hard to know what that next potential step is. It's not always the right step, but at least there's movement forward. Do you know what I mean?
True. You talked about the learning curve and showing up. That's very important. Two sentence you just said, showing up, just for you to show up. that's a success. Sometimes you hate to attend that seminar or that learning or that training.
Yes.
You just showing up. If you learn 1 point out of 100 point that you attend, you're still in a successful spot because you keep learning. No one earned that wisdom and getting all in the same day. It's not an overnight process. It's a learning curve, like you said. It's a process. It's phase, right? So no one sleep and wake up the next day, he's wise or she's wise, right?
That's
When you
right.
start your business many years ago, now you look at things. It's evolved, like you said. You look at
Yes.
things differently.
Yes.
The technology, the audience, even the people, how they respond to event is different. It's not
Absolutely.
like our parents' days. Everything was simple and people are very genuine when they deal with you. Now you have to be very careful when you attend seminars and event, being fully educated about who's your audience. Be careful you are not offending anyone or you are
That's
not
right.
any group or any party because you are not in this life just to to earn the success for yourself, but put belittling others.
That's right.
Not a success. You have to be careful how to approach events and how to respond to the event. I also encourage my client all the time. Most of them they talk about how they thrive during their job or their personal life. I said, we as a human being, I am guilty. I'm one of those. I'm a human just like anybody else. We try to react to event. We are not trying to reply to event. It's a big difference because something upset you, you are just in pain and you want to react to that. So that person or that event will not affect you emotionally. It's better to pause and to digest the event, then reply to it instead of react to it. And I think one of the best book that I gifted to my client after I finished sessioning with them, it's the Four Agreement. And I'm sure you read that Four Agreement. It say like, don't take things personally. That's one of the agreement. Like sometimes things happen in life. It's nothing to do with you as a human.
That's
It's
right.
just life. It's they are events. You just need to digest the event and understand it by pausing and say, should I even reply? And you know what, Connie? Many times you don't even need to reply. It's
That's
not
right.
even worth it. You don't need to spend that energy to reply to many event happening in your life.
Yeah.
Just let it pass and keep moving.
This is very important, and it's funny because I didn't mention it. Usually I mention it at the top of the show, but I have a free gift. It's in my show notes always for all of my listeners to take. It's my communication style assessment. Based on what you just said, I find it's usually a misunderstanding. And I just had this situation this week where I had done some speaking and it was misinterpreted whatever I had said. And with my communication style assessment, they get a report and I have a book and all these things that people have access to. But we as humans, we have filters. Men and women, we think differently, we see the world differently. It's real, right? Where you grew up, you grew up outside of the United States. I grew up in New Jersey. So even being on the East Coast in the United States versus the West Coast, I have a filter, you have a filter. And we bring it to every conversation, every human interaction, every emotional conversation we have. These filters exist for every one of us. So if you and I are communicating and I say something to offend you innocently because I'm not aware of your culture, right? Then what should happen is people should come back and say, wow, I see where you think that, right? Being from the United States. Let me just share some history about my country. I think that will help you understand me a little bit better. But we don't. We think you're rude. You're disrespectful. You just put me down, and I didn't even know I put you down or was disrespectful, right? Because I don't understand what I said because I'm looking through my filters, not through your filters. So with communication, I think too, Sairan, we talk at each other, but we're not really listening to understand. And I have the book coming out on the 23rd, right? Of February 23rd. Yes. And which is very exciting. And the point of the book is community, right? And how we could communicate more effectively together and not feeling bad if we're misunderstood, right? And my chapter is about Covey's fifth law: seek to understand before you try to be understood. And yet we flip that and I'm going to tell you what I know and you're going to hire me because I'm so brilliant. Nobody cares what your brilliance is. Show me, let me feel you, right? Let me be understood before people should understand me. I have to understand them. So, meeting people halfway and understanding that we have these filters, and it's not good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. Be human, be kind, be empathetic in how we communicate. And I think we judge versus just, like you said, take a pause. Don't respond to that email right now. Think it through before we react, right? That's what you're talking about. And I think it's really important.
True. You mentioned judge. That word, I had actually my own quotes. I published my own quotes in my Instagram page, and one of the quotes that I wrote, I think last year, is don't judge, don't be a judge. It's like it's a profession, it's not an act.
That's
Because
right.
the judge is like, you have a judge in the court. That's their profession. Don't be that judge. That's a job. That's
That's right.
not an act. We tend to judge everything. We like to judge every event. We love to judge anything happen in front of us. Who give us that right? Who are we to judge everything?
That's
We
right.
need actually just to be content and in ourselves,
That's right.
and that comes from self-development. This
That's
is
right.
why I mentioned in the beginning, education, wonderful. I encourage my kids, everybody I see, go
Yep.
to college, earn education. I'm not telling you to quit any education institution, although I have a lot of comment about the way how they educate kids around the world. They don't teach them important things. We can get to that in another show and another subject.
Agree with
But
that.
development is very crucial, because with the education, if you don't develop the way how you think and you communicate with other culture and people from different countries, different religion, you will not fit in any society.
That's right.
You mentioned community. I always mention coexistence. We are all related somehow.
That's
The
right.
same thing you need at the end of the day is the same thing that I need: respect, be understood, and do a good job, and be kind, and add a value to the world. It's the
Yeah.
same, although we are not from the same country, but we both share the same core value.
That's
You
right.
want to leave an impact. You don't want to be just someone who do a business for women and women leadership and issue a book on Amazon. That's not your goal. Your goal, Kanye, I'm sure you want to leave a positive impact on others
Absolutely.
before you leave this world. So there's
Absolutely.
coexistence. We are related because that's the same goal I have, the same goal somebody else has, right? In the world. So don't judge, and don't think things fast. People tend to talk fast, judge fast,
Yes.
respond fast, want success fast.
Yeah.
They want the right partner fast. Nothing come like that. You
No.
have to go through the process and phases. And by pausing and understanding, this is why lately I've been reading a lot about Stoic. And Ryan Holiday is one of the best author. He talked about Stoicism and how to understand the best way to react to event. You
Yeah.
don't need to react. You want just to sit down and think about it.
That's
Is
right.
this worth even my time and energy? And
That's right.
and then I read in one of his books chapter, talk about an incident, how to leave things stay without even respond to it. You never know, by the next day those event will solve by itself.
That's
You
right.
don't need to react to everything like, oh,
That's
I
right.
gotta react, I gotta reply. Why? There's
Yes.
certain things doesn't even worth it. There's core value stuff. There's important stuff that you need to tackle in your life.
Yeah.
There's some stuff, it's life. Just let it go by and
Yes.
just keep moving.
Yeah,
Keep
we
moving.
we end up worrying about the wrong thing and we expend all this energy. So we're exhausted and it was just a waste of time. And listen, I do it too, where I get riled up about something that I have no control over. Move on. And I say to myself, all right, move on. You need to move on now because you're not going to be able to fix this. I just want to comment on that. You said we're all here to leave some type of legacy. And I'll just share a very funny story. So one of my clients, the employees, I would see them at networking events and stuff like that. And, oh, good to see you, right? Especially if I've done my stint with them. And my goal is always to hand off the reins. They should be able to bring things internally. They shouldn't need Connie Whitman for the rest of life, right? So I see them at networking and they go, do you know how many times? Now, we would never know this, right? If people didn't reflect and tell us how we've impacted them. But they'll say, the managers are talking about the numbers and the numbers and numbers, and their instinct is go and push a product. And then they say, you know what we do every time? And I always giggle. I go, what do you do? Because that's the wrong thing to do. Well, what do you do? And they say, we go, what would Connie do? What would Jesus do? They go, what would Connie do in this situation? I go, stop it. And they go, yeah. We go, what? WWC, what would Connie do? I said, you guys are out of your mind. But see, that's the impact I want to leave, where people think, wait a minute, feeling pressure. Pause. What did Connie teach me? How would she do it? Let me go back to basics, right? Instead of buckling under the pressure and start pushing product or whatever it is that you're being asked to do. So yes, by parking, pausing, and then moving forward thoughtfully, I think helps us make a better decision. So everybody, we are really out of time. We went a little over today, but everything you were saying, Sairan, was I felt important, and I hope the listeners felt that way as well. So thanks for sticking around, peeps. If you need to speak with Sairan, which I think you all should, especially if you've come from another country and perhaps are struggling a little bit, Sairan maybe can share some of her expertise and her love that might help you settle in a little bit easier, right? And find that ease and grace with whatever change or crossroad you're at. Email her at info@internationaltransitionexpert.com. Check out her website, some cool things on there, which is internationaltransitionexpert.com. Again, reach out. I think that have a conversation with Sairan if you're unsure. So here's a couple of triggers. If you're from another country and you're really trying to stabilize and find and build a life here, please reach out to Sairan. She's been there, done that, and she's done it beautifully. If you're thinking, I'm passionate about XYZ, should that be a business? Have a conversation with, is it viable? Don't know, have a conversation. So if you have any question where Sairan said something or I said something, you're like, is that me? It might be worth having a conversation with Sairan. So again, let me give it one more time, info@internationaltransitionexpert.com. Sairan, thank you for being on and being personal, right? Sharing your personal story, your struggles, your desires and what you've achieved and how you're paying it forward. Just thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom with us. It's so appreciated.
Thanks to you, Connie, and also thanks to all the hard work and effort you do in your business. I always your newsletter, I read them. You put so much heart and love in your work. This is why it's affecting a lot of people, and I am one of them. And thank you for having me again today.
I love that you're in my world, my friends, because I think together we can change the world one person at a time. It's just showing up, right? And doing the best you can every darn day. And sometimes it's easier said than done, right? We all have those days. So again, thank you for being in my orbit and part of my community. I value you and I value what you bring to the table. You make me better, right? You make me pause and reflect and think about comments that you've made today. So I always enjoy hosting the show for that reason. I always learn something, and that's a beautiful, beautiful way to live. I record on Fridays, everyone, if you didn't know that. So my Fridays are a beautiful day because I get to learn. Thank you again, Sairan. Truly appreciate you. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together, no matter where you are in your evolution of change or crossroads that you're facing. I truly hope that my guests like a Sairan or myself and our tools and resources that we share with you, hopefully you find them valuable. Thanks for tuning in. You've been listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. I truly wish you all an inspired week. Please take maybe one little tip that Sairan or perhaps I shared today and apply it into your life. I promise magic happens at the end of that. So with action comes reaction, and that's where I think life becomes pretty cool. So I'll see you next week. Have a great one, and thanks for tuning in. Love you guys.